Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is, or you have got a bit lost. I'm Chatty, welcome to my channel, Chatty with my chatter, where I'm going to be chatting away madly about this marvellous book, Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb. I filmed my August wrap-up and realised there was not going to be enough time for me to be able to share everything I wanted to share within that filming space. So I thought I'm just going to do a completely separate video for it. But I want to do it now so that it's done while I still have the thoughts in my brain. And I was hoping to film outside today because it's gorgeous outside. But I got myself all settled down and sorted. And then someone put their radio on. It's like, oh, it's so inconsiderate. So I've come back in and the hat's staying on because the hair's a mess. So I have a fake plant here. So the sun's shining in this way. So we're going to pretend we're still sort of outside and it'll make me feel okay. I have notes to get me started for everything I wanted to say. A massive glass of water. So we are good to go. So cheers everyone. We are on one take. I am not refilming. Clink, 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 clink. So, Fool's Assassin. This is an adult epic fantasy by Robin Hobb. It is the, bit mental maths, 16, 15, 14th book in the Realm of the Elderlings series. And it's the start of the 5th mini-series, trilogy, essentially, called The Fitz and the Fool. So it's my last one. I have been with Fitz and the other stories within this world for 4 series, and I'm finally at this last one. And I'm so excited, but also terrified and saddened and bittersweet because it is the last one. But Hobb, I just adore her writing. I adore her world and the characters that she's given us. Like, that is why you read these books. You read them because you want to hang out with these people. You want to know what's going on in their journeys, and they're just delightful. So the Fitz books are Farseer trilogy. And then the live ships is a different part of the world, but there are world building bits and kind of references to things, so it's still very much part of the series. And then you get the other Fitz trilogy, which is the Tawny Man, and then the Rain Wild Chronicles again goes through a different part, but the lore of the land and things that happen are relevant to the rest of the series, so it links together. So read in order. Derri's video here, watch it, important if you want to get into Realm of Elderlings. So we've reached the final one. So just a brief thought for those who just kind of want a little piece of what I thought without me spoiling the entire series so far. So it's glorious to be back with Fitz. We love Fitz. We love finding out how he's doing at this point in his life and being with him and the other people around him. And it's what you want from a Hobb. It is slow burn. You're immersed in the world. You are living and breathing with Fitz. You're in his head with all his thoughts. And just you build up these other characters. So there are new characters. We get more of the same characters who have had their story arcs and have changed, but are still the delightful things about them that make them them, which is what I love. Shade. And there's more characters that you can feel very annoyed by in here. There is a threat, there is mystery, all of those things you want from Hobb in here. But it's mainly Fitz. It's mainly, why do we read? We read for Fitz. So if you're someone that when you start reading these books, you don't get on with Fitz, I don't think this series is going to work for you. You have to like Fitz because 9 of these books are in his headspace. So yeah, have a little think about that. And that's all I can say, really, without going into spoilers. So I just encourage you to read. Read. Get to this point, read this book. And then if you still want to hear my thoughts on it by the years have passed and you've got to that point, marvellous, come back and you can hear me chat about it. Bye-bye. Off you skedaddle for those who have not read but have every intention of reading. Okay, we're going into this book. Let's have a big drink of water, ready for the stuff. Okay, right, let's do this. Fitz, it's like coming home. whenever, like, I've had the same feelings for like Fool's Errand, just diving back into this world and just like, oh, I've missed you, Fitz. I've missed being with you and spending time with you, and despite whatever stuff you're dealing with, it's just so nice to be back. And again, you've got that slow burn into the world. You're kind of with him in the pacing of the day-to-day life, and it was just so many people. So I was chatting in the Discord on Gregory and Perch's channel, and then very much enjoyed watching the live show from Anitha Garde's channel, with Evie, and we had Emily, and I can't remember the other people on there. Oh, Derri, of course. I don't know if Pete was in that one, but anyway, the usual crowd and some more. So it was great to be sort of in that chat with everyone. But I know when we all started reading this, Stacy was on fire and was just tearing through this, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I need to read it, you're making me so excited. And then Bridget started reading it as well, so there was lots of amazing chat going on, and all of us were like, oh, it's like coming home. It's like just coming home to Fitz and being part of this world. It's just, yes. So we start off not completely at the end of Fool's Fate. So at the end of Fool's Fate, you kind of get a little bit of kind of like an epilogue, sort of tying up the story. And there's certain events that by the time you finish it, they haven't quite happened in this one. So that was a lovely surprise. I'm doing spoilers, so I'm going in. Patience is still alive in this. So they talk about Patience dying in the final one in Fool's Fate, and kind of like how they kind of continued living. And but you get into this one and they're getting ready for this kind of celebration, and Patience is still alive in this one. I was like, oh, Patience, we love you. And then you read a bit more, and then she's no longer with us. Years have passed, and they mention her passing. There's an event that happens as to like why we weren't given an impactful death scene, because it would have taken away from another. But also because I'd read in Fool's Fate that Patience had died, I was kind of, it sort of made sense because we'd gone back for a specific event. So there were there's like mysterious messengers and a disappearing, and then obviously some kind of brawl and fight within Fitz's house. So because that happened, and during that timeline Patience was alive, we kind of went back to that point, but then the story needed to move forward to kind of get to the next bit. So it didn't feel strange for me that we didn't have that. But I know lots of people like were very sorry to say goodbye to Patience and feel that she was taken too cruelly and quickly from the book. She wasn't taken cruelly. She had as far as deaths go, she had a nice relaxing death, but I did love that we got more Patience in here. So going back to Fool's Fate. Fool's Fate is my absolute favourite of favoritist books. I didn't think I would have that, but Fool's Fate, because of all the emotional payoff, that is my favoritist favourite. What did I want to say about it? Oh yeah, but despite it being my favoritist favourite, I was unsatisfied by a few things in that book. So Fitz and Molly, we see them in the Farseer trilogy, and we see their relationship. They're both very young, like late teens, early 20s. They're both very passionate people with troubled, abused pasts that they come from. So whilst I like the characters individually, they didn't mesh well together as a couple because of everything else that was going on. So they were in constant conflict. You know, they're very strong characters. There's a lot going on for them. And they just like, there were times when, you know, they were great together, and there were times when they're just like, you are just rubbing each other up the wrong way, and you can't explain it. You're not, Fitz is so Fitzy, he's crap at communicating. And he's being pulled in so many different ways that it's just completely gone over Molly's head. Like, she doesn't know what's going on because Fitz is, you know, secret mode, and there's a lot of danger going on, and he's being Fitz trying to protect her thing. So you've got this emotional trauma going on for Fitz. You've got his still not entirely sure of his identity. Still kind of being a little bit out there in the castle. You know, he hasn't really got a secure place. He is at the whim of like King Shrewd, of Shade, of Barrick to a certain extent. He's still kind of like in child level and is being told what to do by all of them, and is kind of acting like the rebellious teenage boy and going, my life, leave me alone. But he's also got this sense of duty, and he knows, you know, they're in the middle of a war. He's trying to help everyone. He's got skills. He's important within all of this. So he's got to go and do things. And as much as he rails against it, there is definitely a part of him that is wanting to do all of this. And that's something that Molly can't get. So of course, conflict cause. And, you know, Molly has a right to be angry. You know, she's thrown everything in. You know, she could be going off and doing her own thing and having a much more calmer existence. But she loves Fitz, so she wants to be with him. So she's in the castle, having a secret relationship with him and, you know, running risk of people bad-mouthing her, of danger, of just having this unreliability in her life. You know, Fitz is not making her feel secure or safe or cherished or anything like that. There's no security with him, and he's drinking, which is a big no for her. So it's not great in terms of their relationship. So when they kind of, at the end of Fool's Fate, they began and got together again, I was like, is it going to work? I'm not convinced that this is going to work. So that was one unsatisfactory point. Second unsatisfactory point at the end of Fool's Fate was Fitz and the Fool came to a parting of ways. And I love the Fitz and the Fool relationship. Whatever it is, soulmates, kindred spirits, you know, whatever ship they are on, I love that ship. That is my end game, happily ever after ship in whatever form it takes for Fitz and Fool. And they part ways and they go. And I'm like, can Fitz be okay without the Fool? Can the Fool be okay without Fitz? What's happening? So that also left me unsatisfied as well. Obviously, I'm in a position of a later reader knowing I finished 20 Man, but there's 2 more series, one of which is called Fitz and the Fool, so I think I'm going to be okay. However, in terms of ending of my favourite of favourites, that was dissatisfying. And the final bit was Nettle and Fitz's relationship. So this was one of the emotional payoffs that I was adoring reading throughout Fitz and the Fool, and there was so much heartache and complications because of everything that had gone on before. And finally he's confronted with this daughter that he basically hid himself from and felt he couldn't love because she needed to be with Burrick and Molly and she'd be much safer with them. And, you know, he was the witted bastard. He was dead, presumed by everyone. And he just felt like he didn't want to complicate things for everyone. And so he was sort of, you know, missing her and loving her from afar, but essentially had abandoned his daughter. So their relationship, there was no closure on that. There was resentment and anger, and then kind of begrudging kind of being okay with each other, and then Fitz kind of joining the family and being able to talk to Nettle, but there wasn't any closure. They didn't sit down and go, you hurt me, and I'm sorry, I did it because of this. That we didn't get that, and I needed that. I really needed that. So this book, Fool's Assassin, answered those questions for me and gave me those things that I was missing. So Fitz and Molly, mature Fitz, mature Molly, they've come a long way. Fitz has been able to tell her all his secrets to a certain extent about everything, and they are now able to function as a mature relationship. And it was lovely to see in this, like seeing how they were together, seeing Fitz happy, seeing Molly happy. It was really lovely to see that in here. But also when creepy whispers were occurring again and there was some trouble back at the castle because Shade's been shading it up by meddling in things and has done something, and Fitz needs to go there. Like, you know, these are his friends, this is his family, he needs to go and help. Molly gets it. So even though they've planned this lovely like mini holiday, mini break for them, they were going to have this wonderful time, as soon as Fitz is like, I need to go, I'm really sorry, she's like, well, it's annoying, not going to lie, but get it. I will drive you to the stone pillar for you to get there as quickly as possible. So I just loved that bit. I was like, this is where I'm like, yes, this relationship can definitely work, because Molly can see this as a part of Fitz and accept all of Fitz rather than just the piece of Fitz that she wanted from Royal Assassin, because she didn't really understand or know about this other side of Fitz. And then Fitz is more comfortable because obviously he can tell Molly that he's sorry. He can tell her, like, this is what I need to do, and he knows it's still fine. So he's not having to hide himself, or like the answer being, let me just drink a load of alcohol and maybe it'll go away if I ignore it. Not a good way of coping. So Fitz was able to do that. He went through the stone, and I also love that Molly was like, make sure you message me so I know you're safe, even if it takes a bird 3 days to get there. Make sure you do that. So I really appreciated that part of the relationship. And there was other moments, I can't remember specifically, but I do remember also enjoying the bit where she was like, Fitz, stop shutting me out. You've done this before. It didn't work. It wasn't good. So if you are keeping any secrets, you need to not do that and you need to tell me. So I like that she called him out on his Fitziness, because we love Fitz, but there's some epic Fitziness where you're like, Fitz, why? Just stop. Just talk to people. It's okay. You don't have to carry everything alone. And you get to see what I really love about Hob and these books is that we see, you know, little baby Fitz in Farseer being a teenager. We see more mature Fitz that's still dealing with a lot of stuff as a 30-year-old. And then we see, like, you know, Fitz in his 50s who has been able to make peace with a lot of things, has been able to learn from a lot of things, but it's still the same Fitz. And his immediate reactions to things is, must protect. He goes into wolf pack mode, secret assassin mode, and we still love him because he's Fitz. But I like that Molly called him out, and I like that Fitz is kind of aware, I need to try and not do this, but this is how I am. Just like, you know, he's just at a point where there's like a joyful event has happened, you know, when Molly gives birth, and his immediate thought is suddenly like, how do I protect my child? And then goes into kind of like whirling brain of paranoia and instant protection mode. And it's just so Fitz. But I do love that when the morning happens, Molly's just like, dude, come on, work with me on this. It's going to be okay. So yeah, I did enjoy their relationship in this one. It did work. And I also felt happy that I knew the Fool was coming back because Fitz and the Fool. Although, took a long time for us to see the Fool. However, I was very much enjoying what was going on at that point, and I felt like we'll get the Fool at some point. And when we do get the Fool, it's going to be glorious because this is Hob and we trust in the Hob, and the Hob delivers. What did I want to do? Yep, spoken about that. Yes, Nettle. Okay, so that was my biggest thing. My biggest thing that I really missed was the Nettle and Fitz relationship, because I loved it, but I just needed, we're not quite there. We still have a lot to work on, and we are getting that in bits and pieces through this trilogy, which makes me happy. But one beautiful moment in here was when they'd gone up to the Mountain Kingdom, and Fitz was feeling rejected and abandoned by the Fool because there was someone else who'd got letters from him, and Fitz has not heard from Fool. So he goes into a Fitz sulk and goes off to be alone with his feelings and thoughts because he likes to be a bit emo. But then Nettle follows him, and Nettle's just like, I know you, Dad, I know what you do, and I'm here. And then Fitz is like, oh, I want to sulk. And he's like, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I acting like a spoiled brat? Actually, it's really nice that Nettle's come after me. And then they have a really lovely chat about who the Fool is and what he meant to Fitz. And Nettle gets to see these missing parts of Fitz's life that she hadn't seen before. And there's a moment, she calls him Dar. She always calls him Fitz, or she always calls him Tom, because her dad is Burrick, which is right. But there's also a moment when she's like, well, you can also be my dad. And she calls him Dar. Made me cry. I was like, that is beautiful. So that was glorious. And it's really lovely to see Nettle as schoolmistress. Like, I absolutely love seeing her in this role. Like, she's fought through all this adversity. You can see this. You could see this strong child becoming this really strong woman, and this care and support that she's giving, and just this amazing work that she's done. Like, she's had to build this up from absolute scratch, and she's done such an amazing job with building up a proper skill network and proper skill coteries, and basically putting right everything that Galen from Farseer, who is one of the characters that I hate the most worse than Regal, destroyed. I hate Galen so much. I hate everything he did, everything he stood for, and I don't think he suffered enough. I wanted him to stand trial and answer to all his crimes and then be killed. Anyway, Galen death aside, I think Nettle she's incredible, and it's so good to see her thriving in this atmosphere, and you can tell there is something between her and Riddle, and it seems like a really like positive, mutual respecting relationship where they rely on each other. Riddle definitely seems strong enough to be, you know, Nettle's lover, husband, life partner, whatever you want to call it, because he will also face down Fitz sometimes, and I think that takes a lot of guts. And there is a kind of a secret work side to Riddle as well. Like, we met him in Fool's Fate. I'm looking forward to reading that one again and reconnecting with these characters I probably didn't pay as much attention to at the time. So that's really great. So I'm really hoping that Nettle and Riddle will get their moment to be married and together properly. We will see. I've already spoken about that bit. Yeah, so you're basically with Fitz and Molly, and then you get a few other people popping in and popping out, and you get to kind of see their household and what they're trying to do with their household, and it's just really lovely. And I love Revel, their steward, butler guy. He is an absolute legend. And the more you read the book, the more you fall in love with Revel, especially when Bee comes on the scene. So now we need to talk about Bee. Molly's pregnancy and the Fitz's worry that she had dementia or something like that. It was hard to read. It was hard to read. But you could see all the love there, and it was just, I'm so pleased when Molly's strength, and she's just like, look, okay, I know it's hard to believe. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but please, when you're in this space, can you just indulge me and pretend that you believe me? That's what I need from you. So again, I loved their communication, and poor Fitz. Eventually he got the message, and eventually it must have been so hard for Molly. But then as soon as she says, she gives birth to this baby, and the baby is tiny, and it talks about the white hair and the fact that Molly was pregnant for 2 years, and she kind of like, or maybe it was my body predicting this was going to be. And I'm like, oh no, I think there's something. I did feel, the white hair, like you immediately hear white hair, you're like, Fool. And you're like, the whites. And I remember vividly Fool saying that they weren't quite human, they are other. So things are different for them. Time is different for them. Growth and life are different for them. So I'm like, well, that makes sense. There's probably a really long pregnancy then if they're so different. So I clocked quite early on that Bee is a white. It's not exactly confirmed, but it's pretty much confirmed. And I really enjoyed that, and I was really excited about that. And I loved kind of seeing more and more like confirmation of what I was thinking coming through, like when we start to hear from Bee and we start to hear the dreams, and we start to just see like how tiny this child is. And it was knowing that she was a white like helped to kind of like with, I didn't feel she was going to die. Also, like it wouldn't make sense to the story that Fitz and Molly would have a sickly child and then the child dies. It was like, well, why did you bother doing that? It wouldn't have made sense. Like there is a purpose to this. There has to be, you can't push us to be invested in this and then take it away from us. It doesn't make story sense at all. And if you're just doing it to make a point or as a plot factor, I'm not here for that. So I was very excited to see that. I also really loved that Molly and Fitz immediately, like I could physically see them in my brain just clink together against outsiders in protection of their child. And I just loved that. It was just such a gorgeous family unit. The pack was here for the cub. So that was all, I appreciated that. But it was also really heart-wrenching as well to see just how upset Fitz felt and how he was really struggling with seeing his child being different and just worrying about the future of Bee and what she was going to encounter. And I thought there were some lovely kind of moments paralleling what he can remember of the Fool and the early memories of the Fool and the Fool being bullied for being different. And I do like that Hob does not shy away from that in this world. So we saw it a lot with Vic, how this world treats people who have got a disability or who are neurodivergent or who are not what is expected of people. And I like how that is shown to us, and then slowly the characters realise that their behaviour is wrong. So I like the realism of it and what the characters need to do to kind of build up their resilience, even though they shouldn't have to, they should be cherished, but this is not the world we live in. So I enjoyed all of that. So even though the bullying was awful to read about, it felt right for the characters. It felt right for the story, because as much as we're having a wonderful time at Withywoods, there can still be bullies and harsh realities even in your lovely places. And you could see Bee's, you know, trail of thoughts. Like she didn't want to kind of be pulling rank on people or getting people to leave her alone because of what her dad does. She wants to be able to stand on her own feet, and she needs that strength to survive, because wherever she goes, she is going to be seen as different. And I loved when she had those conversations with Fitz about that. It was just so many beautiful moments in here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I like that Hob doesn't shy away from that. I also enjoyed the non-specific reference, but the explanation of tongue tie as well in here, because as soon as she was talking about her tongue not being able to lift, I do a lot of work with children and young families, and it is something that we come across, and it really does make a difference having that. Like there's a bit of skin that means the tongue can't move around as freely, and it can affect feeding, and it can affect speech. Not all the time, so sometimes people can have them and it doesn't get dealt with. But I love that reference in here, and how, you know, it wouldn't have been given a name because of the world that we're in. And you also got to glimpse a little bit of Bee's white ability of prophecy, and like the paths to take. And she knew if she wanted to talk, she needed to put herself in place where someone was going to loosen her tongue, and that was the way it had to be. So it was really fascinating seeing that occurring. Obviously, at the same time, your heart is completely bleeding for her, and the meanness of these children, the bullies, and just this culture that makes them think they're allowed to do that. It's horrendous. But we do get to meet some of Bee's champions. So we have, I've already mentioned Riddle. Riddle is wonderful. He is such a warm, stable figure, and he's someone who sees things and wants to try and put them right. And I think there was a lovely relationship between him and Molly that we didn't get to see, but we kind of see it afterwards in kind of like the way he talks about her and how he talks about her with Bee. And I love how you kind of see this slow development between Bee and Fitz, and trying to make changes and trying to like make things like, actually, this is going to help Bee if we make this way for her so she can access things, and like all of these little different bits and pieces. It was just really lovely to see this slow build up. But before we get there, obviously we have to deal with the death of Molly. This was such a heart-wrenching but beautiful scene when Molly just leaves the world. And it's horrible that it was kind of with Bee, but at the same time, I like that Bee was there for her mum, but it's awful just thinking of her just being with her until she's found, and then we see Fitz and we see Fitz's reaction, and Fitz and Bee just kind of like clinging together as ones that just loved and adored her, and now she's gone and left a big hole in their life. Again, the way of coping from Fitz seems very normal and Fitz-like, and there was a really kind of tricky discussion between him and Nettle with Bee present, and you can see things from Nettle's point of view as well as seeing things from Fitz's point of view, and it was just a really hard chat, and it was a really upsetting chat, but what came out of it was so beautiful, with Bee speaking and saying she wants to live with and stay with her dad, because Withywoods is what she knows, it is her home, and now that Fitz understands what it was that was making Bee draw away from him with his skill spilling, we know Fitz has got so many intense emotions, so to be able to feel them all the time must be incredibly overwhelming, especially if part of those emotions involve Bee, and Bee is feeling what Fitz is feeling about her, even though he's trying to hide it. So as soon as he starts putting up walls and understanding that she's really receptive to the skill, so it's kind of like the opposite. So it's like, it feels like it's the opposite of being able to skill and being able to send your thoughts to people, but she's just like a skill sponge. So she can feel people's like thoughts and emotions from them, and it can act accordingly of like, you don't like me, so I'm going to stay away from you. So she's kind of got, she's not got the wit, but it's like she's a skill sponge is kind of what I can feel from her, or wit sponge. I don't know how it works. Like she can sense animals. No, I think she's a skill sponge. I don't think the wit comes in, but we will find out. Many questions as always. So I really enjoyed all of that stuff with Bee and Fitz. Like that was my favourite part of this book, like seeing their building relationship, seeing their different relationship, because they are different, you know, they are different to other people. Like, they are interested in history and writings and recordings, and they don't want to kind of do the same as everyone else, and they know they're not the same as everyone else. And I just like, you know, how they want to be and how they respect each other, and Fitz trying to be a dad, but also I think his way of raising B is right for her. Like, when they have the situation with the messenger where they need to deal with the body, as much as Fitz is like, oh my god, I'm helping my child burn a body, but I think B needed to see that, because I think for her to not know what happened would be worse than her. Like, Fitz is always really good at shutting people out and protecting them and not telling them and trying to work by himself. So it's nice, as much as possible, he shared with B, almost to keep her safe, because he's like, look, we found this person, they needed our help. Unfortunately, they've gone, but we are worried that bad people are coming, so we need to protect ourselves and we need to hide this. So he was giving her information that she needed to survive, and he was respecting her by letting her know, even though it was hard. And I really liked hearing B's thoughts as well as Fitz's thoughts in this kind of back and forth, and it was moments when they kind of missed the point from each other, but so many moments where their understanding of each other and their relationship was just gorgeous in here. It was just so beautiful, and just, it was so warm, and it's just like little bits. It was like all the little things that kind of built up. And then it all kind of built up to that scene at the end, which is why it felt so at that point. We also have some less likeable characters here. So we've got Shade being Shade, who's throwing all the random strays to Fitz to look after. So people that he's not able to look after, he's like, give them to Fitz. Here you go, Fitz. Fitz is like, I have no idea what's going on. I very much suspected that Shun is Shade's child. I can see no other reason why Shade is going to be that interested in this person. I'm not sure what the draw is, but behind Fitz Vigilant, but we'll see. Very disappointed with Fitz Vigilant's character. I was hoping that he could be someone that would be a B supporter, and I was struggling with, why are Shade and Nettle saying, oh, he's fabulous, when he's just so self-centered and selfish and is only nice to Shun. And then I realised at the end, it's like, oh my god, they're just so classist, aren't they? Like, they see Fitz as like beneath them because he is from more of Tom Badgerlock, as is who they see him as, is this character that is below their status. You know, he's not a noble. He's supposed to be this journeyman that married Molly, who isn't a noble. But Nettle, because she's called Lady Nettle and she's a skill mistress, she has status. So then he's nice to her, but looks down on the others. And I'm just like, So I really would like him to not be dead, because I want him to learn that his behaviour is not okay, and don't be so classist, actually, and a big bully. Even though he thinks he's not a bully. I had no time for that. Shun, no idea what's going on with her. She's a bitch. It's a bitch that needs a big slap, basically. Had to move location because the family came back and invaded my space. So I've relocated up here to the really hot, the morning sun is shining in, sweaty room. But hopefully we can carry on. So we think I was just laying into Shun about being a bitch. So yeah, both not a fan of these two stray orphans that have been foisted onto Fitz to screw up his household. They're incredibly spoilt snobs, and they need to learn that's not how to behave. We'll see if any of that happens. So dealing with all of that, you've then got this kind of mystery about Fool's son, the unexpected son, like the future white prophet child happening. So Fitz is half trying to put his brain into that. You've got these mysterious messages showing up that are being brutally killed and tortured. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound that my hope for the Fool was that him and Pillcrop, who they met in that Icefire's ice cavern tomb, who went back to the Land of the Whites and the school, and we're going to be like, hey, look, guys, you got it wrong, but it's okay because we fixed the world. It's fine. And now let's revamp the school and make this a nice place and deal with all the white stuff. It doesn't sound like they were very successful. So my dream of, whilst reading the Rain Wild Chronicles, that all of that might be happening and we might have a little bit of Amber popping back in, we didn't get that. There weren't any hints of like what was happening with the whites throughout all of that, and now it just sounds like not good news. So we have many questions. I'm really pleased that we are exploring the whites, because that has been like an aspect of the world where we've only kind of seen the Fool and this false prophet, whose name I can't remember, and then Pilkerop. So there's still many questions about all of their kind of culture and how that all works, and kind of how they fit into everything, and kind of what their motives are or what they were wanting. Like, all of that has been left unexplored. So very interesting to kind of see all of that. As always, we are still getting more information about the magic system and how it works, and obviously Shade has been Shade and has been pushing himself forward for knowledge at the expense of maybe that's not a good idea, but he's Shade and that's what Shade does. So it's an interesting dynamic. So there's the skill, they are using the skill pillars for travel a lot more, and they are still kind of checking things, and I think they've been able to bring a few bits and pieces back from the other place. So they have many mysteries and things about the Elderlings and about this magic system. So that's really fun to be exploring and looking into, especially considering what we got from the Rain Wild Chronicles, that we now have Kalsingra as this elderling place that is starting to kind of begin to thrive again. So there's many fun, exciting things and avenues to go down in all of that. Obviously we get to the climax of the story, and it started out so well. Like, I felt we were in a really good place because we have character I haven't talked about. We're going to come back to them. We were in a really good place with B and Fitz starting to be really close, and Fitz going, right, I really need to focus on B. So this trip is about B and doing things with B and getting things with B and making sure that B is well loved, and we're not having to deal with like Lant and Shun, who shouldn't have even been on this shopping trip. I'm just going to put in there, they weren't supposed to come, but Shun decides it's all about her and she needs stockings, because of course she does. What happened to Assassin Shun? What happened to that kind of aspect, that the cover was that she was going to be some sort of guard? Definitely not. They're trying to prolong a court life or something on here. It's just weird. Anyway, annoying characters aside, it was supposed to be like Fitz. They were able to kind of break apart. So we had Fitz and Riddle and B going around and hopefully having a nice time together until we get to the dogs. But what I loved about this is obviously we got Fitz in Fitz rage because of the torture of the animals and just the horror of everything that had gone and the way he dealt with it all. And then he's like, oh, I've screwed up. I did all that in front of B. I've terrified her. She shouldn't have seen that. And then they get to the table to have like a break and food and all of that. And B goes, thank you for doing that. I'm so pleased you did that. And it's just like, yay. And like, she's proud of him for helping the dogs and standing up for justice, and she was proud of him. So I really liked that. I liked that deepening of their relationship, and I was just feeling really happy. And then Bee's trying to buy all these presents for like her new maid and for Revel, and it's just gorgeous because these people are kind to her and love her, and she wants to show them that she loves them and is kind to them back. And I just thought that was all really lovely. And I haven't even spoken about Perseverance. I love Perseverance. He is a sweetheart. He is solid gold character. I'm so excited that he is here. I'm so delighted that Bee has a friend that he's teaching her able to teach her to ride. He's got kind of like that Burrick kind of stubbornness to him, and like the focus on the horses and the caring for the animals and not really judging people and just being really solid. So I really enjoy all of that from Perseverance, and he's amazing. Want more Perseverance. And then just we have those moments, and then the two stupids come and screw it all up by being idiots and being mean and unkind. And I really enjoyed how Fitz put them in their place. And I would have loved if we could have got back to the house and have more of that, and just Fitz being like, stop being awful. Like, you have come into my house, which belongs to my child, and you are taking liberties with all of that, and you are throwing your weight around and just being really not very nice people. I would have liked to have seen that storyline continue, but obviously this is the bit where the shitteth hitteth the fanneth and it all goes crazy. Sorry, needed a massive water break then. So we're at the climax. Pardon me. I cannot recall when I thought this old beggar was the fool. I have no memory of when that bit clicked for me, or if it did, or if I didn't know until it was revealed. I was just reading. I was just like reading. So just that whole combination of B being missing, something weird happening with like B and the beggar fool, and the prophecies and skill and stuff, and then Fitz's reaction, and then the stabbing, and then the revealing of it being the fool, and then the torturous cry of Fitz, and then the shit, how do I help the fool and look after my child moment. Just, there's a lot. There's a lot to be dealing with. It was quite exhausting. It was very exhausting having to deal with all of that. And then just continually from there, and then the worry of the fool, and then coming back through the pillars, and Riddle being drained, and then seeing how badly the fool is, like the state of him, it's just awful. And then suddenly the invasion of Withywoods. It was so much. It was so much. And usually when you get to the end of a Hob book, apart from Dragon's Keeper, but that doesn't count because Dragon's Keeper and Dragonhaven are the same book, it's like there's the end. Whereas this was a cliffhanger. We don't get a cliffhanger with Hob. So I'm just like, what? And I was so close to just picking up Fool's Quest to read on to make sure people were okay. And I am pleased that I did not, because I think I just needed to sit with it for a bit and just let it sit. And if I started picking up Fool's Quest, I'd just start reading it, and then the books would blur together. I was like, I just, for now, for this first read, I just want them separate. When I'm doing a read, I might read like the individual series like back to back. But for now, I just want sit, embrace, feel the feelings, wallow in the feelings, have therapy by being in Discord or going and watching more of Derri's videos and listening to just general Hob chat to kind of allow everything to settle back down again. Like, I couldn't even put into words, like I was commenting so much in the Discord about all the different bits and pieces. But then when we got to the end, I was just like, how do I even start? There's just so much. There's just so much for me to talk about and just feel and go, what is going on? And the reason we feel like that is because of how long we have walked this path with Fitz, how much we have felt about his journey as a parent, how much we know he feels and regrets things and struggles with things and takes a lot of blame, how much we know Hob can write characters that are awful and we hate, and the worry of the fool, because how is he going to be okay? What on earth has happened to him? And like all we've been through with him, you know, this is not the first time he's been tortured. He was tortured in the ice bit as well, and broken in the ice bit. So it was like to think of the fool going through that again, and just seeing this shell of him being brought back, and just the combination of all of it, and then just having that alteration between all of the looting and pillaging and assaulting of Withywoods, of the house and the staff and everything, and then the kidnapping of B, having all of that going on, and Fitz just having a snowy day walk around the market, and I enjoyed that epilogue of just like Fitz's retrospect, thinking of where he was when that was going on, and it just makes you want to cry. So yes, I really did love this, and there is also another aspect that I completely haven't spoken about: the tunnels in Withywoods, and that delightful like Bee having this wonderful little haven, this little place for her, and her exploring it, and this little den. I just loved all of that, and most importantly, Night Eyes. Derri did such a good job of not spoiling it when we lost Night Eyes in Fool's Errand, and going, he's still here, he's still a character in this book, so we still have his presence, and having him in this sort of like spirit form of him, you know, Fitz has spoken about Night Eyes, and Night Eyes saying, you will tell your cubs about us, and then him being with Bee in her head as the Wolf Father. It was love, and you can just hear his voice throughout it, and it's just like, oh, Night Eyes is still here. It was beautiful. I loved all of that. I think that's everything. I think that's my gush. I think that's all my emotions, my emotional reaction to the plot of the story and the characters. There's nothing else I can do. I can't break out themes and discussions, and even like looking at the passages of the language. All I can do with this is gush about my love for this world and these characters in this book, and the appreciation of the slow burniness of it all. It's just beautiful, just beautiful. So yes, I loved Fool's Assassin, very excited about Fool's Quest. So there we go. Please feel free to share any of your thoughts. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Were there other thoughts and things you had about this? Have you read it a second time and had different thoughts on reading it a second time? I would love to know, so feel free to get chatty in the comments, and happy reading, everyone.